We're here to help agents get listings and sales, and I'm really excited about today.
We always need to be thinking about both protecting consumer privacy and making sure we're just doing the right thing.
Basically, you're talking about a full psychometric testing.
Exactly. It's a great way to put it. We need to figure out how we're going to translate all of this change, all of this technology to agents so that they can take it into the living room, they can take it into their prospecting sessions.
They're not going to want to listen to me for 10 minutes, these people. They want 30 seconds.
How can we as salespeople, as leaders, how can we get better prepared for meetings by essentially understanding our audience better? We spoke about a secret weapon, and we are going to look at a product called today.
It's a weapon that if you don't have, you're going to be at a disadvantage at the listing presentation.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, The Sales Coach and the AI Guy. Seth Watts is my co-pilot. My name is Tom Panos, and we're going to be joining you on a consistent basis, helping you understand the difference between cutting edge and bleeding edge in AI. It is a topic that has got real estate agents all around the world thinking, how can I actually get more listings and more sales? And we're coming at not from a technical angle, but how you can actually have a better real estate life by embracing tools that we're going to be talking to you during the podcast. Seth, great to have you.
Tom, how long have we been talking about this? It feels like the technology world has been turned upside down in the last 2 years. And I think, Tom, you and I sat down almost a year ago now and said, we need to figure out how we're going to translate all of this change, all of this technology to agents so that they can take it into the living room, they can take it into their prospecting sessions, and we can help them become more dollar productive and start to use these tools. It's been a long time between drinks, but I'm so excited to finally get started.
And I'm pumped about it as well, Seth, because the philosophy that we have is we talk about how is it going to help you and your business, not just sit there on looking at all these novel features. We're here to help agents get listings and sales. And I'm really excited about today because one of the things we're going to be talking about later on in the podcast today is it's a weapon that if you don't have, you're going to be at a disadvantage at the listing presentation.
Yeah.
It's happening right here, right now. We're actually at ARIC as we speak, and that's why when people are watching the background here, we're at the Gold Coast exhibition.
Perfect place to launch the podcast, right?
Perfect. And I've got to say, Seth, the last couple of weeks, what have you been up to? What are you seeing?
I've got to say, Tom, the last couple of weeks for AI have been sort of like the Olympics. So every year, it's becoming every 6 months, but really every year, the big AI labs release all of their new products. So we've had announcements from OpenAI, the people who make ChatGPT. We've had a huge announcement from Google, who have come out with, I think, 30, 40 new products. And then finally, Anthropic, Claude, some of you may have used that before, but they came out with their latest version. So it has just been a crazy last couple of weeks watching all of this new innovation come into play. We're going to be talking a lot about that, Tom, over the next sort of 6 months as we translate that from the lab into reality. But suffice to say, this pace of change that I think all of us are struggling with is speeding up. In fact, you know what? The CEO of Anthropic does this presentation on Wednesday, Tom, and he gets up and he's a serious person. He's a serious dude, this guy, and says, listen, if we stopped all innovation today, there is enough technology we have now given you and the other labs have given you that we could replace every white collar job on the planet using technology from today, which I don't know if I agree with that. Kind of scares me a bit, but I think it's fascinating just how advanced this stuff actually is. And we are going to help you over the next 6 months, listeners, really figure out, well, what does that mean and how is it going to affect my life? And how do I make sure it ain't replacing my job? Because we want our listeners to be the guys who are taking this technology and these tools and bringing it out to their vendors to make some amazing magic. Okay. How about you, Tom, before you get started? We are literally at the center of the real estate universe this weekend. Tell me, how's ARIC been? What have you been hearing? What's the vibe out there in the industry?
Yeah, so we've just completed the first day. Obviously, the lead up to ARIC is about getting the agenda done, getting the program done. The last 2 weeks, it's been about selling tickets,
right,
and that's happened.
Good audience, 4,500 up here?
I think it's just under 4.5. I think it's around 4, just over 4. But it's a great,
crowd.
and it's the biggest real estate conference in Australasia. In fact, someone said to me, they don't think that there's a business conference that gets anywhere near 5,000 people of any, genre.
Well, when you get the former vice president in the United States speaking, it's pretty special. You can see why people are here. What were the highlight speakers for you?
Highlight speakers for me was listening. I agree. We were talking off air, that restaurant owner, Will Videra, right?
Amazing.
Yeah, and he spoke about having unreasonable hospitality. I think it was the word. I'm not quite sure whether
that's right. You got it. That's right.
Unreasonable. And what he's talking about is one size does not fit all. One fits one, which is actually perfect for the podcast that we've got today, because the subject that
I had not thought about that. You're absolutely right. That's fantastic.
That actually basically says you've got to move away. The way he built the #1 restaurant in the world.
Yep, in New York, right?
In the world.
I know.
But he was in New York.
Right.
But #1, the way he built it was not one to many, one to one. Every person had a unique experience.
He tells this story, right? That he's got this Spanish family. Their kids had never seen snow, and they literally, after the meal, the family walks out the door. There's a black SUV sitting there with hot chocolate in the little cup holders, and sleds in the back, so the kids can go sledding in Central Park for the first time. And it was just unbelievable. And the nice thing about Will was he told these just amazing stories, but then translates them for how all of us can think about that and apply it to real estate. I just took so many notes in that session. It was great.
So Seth, let's move straight into it.
Right.
This week, what AI tool is there that can help an agent get more business?
So Tom, we spoke about a secret weapon, and we are going to look at a product called Crystal Knows today. So Crystal Knows, out of Harvard or MIT, one of those big fancy universities. And what they wanted to do was to figure out, how can we as salespeople, as leaders, how can we get better prepared for meetings by essentially understanding our audience better? So what they did is they built a tool that allows us as salespeople to do like a disc profile for the people we're about to meet. And not only does it give you a disc profile of what the user, how they act, how they think, what their preferences are, it then goes that one step further, and it helps us understand, how do we talk to them? How do we negotiate with them? How do you talk about money? How do you email them? And it goes through and does all of the legwork that you normally have to do in that first listing presentation, trying to figure all this stuff out. But it gives you an unfair competitive advantage before you walk in by telling you exactly how that person thinks. The way it does it is it like scrapes their socials. So mainly like LinkedIn, but other socials if they can find them, brings it all together and helps you profile it. So we are going to profile you, Tom, and see how we would sell to you. And then I've already profiled myself, and it's going to help us understand how, if I walked in and prospected you, how I would get the best outcomes for you. How's it sound?
It sounds amazing. So what you're saying to me is that our real estate agents can start going into listing presentations,
right,
understanding the values, the things that drive those vendors,
right,
the things they want to hear, they don't want to hear,
like
whether they're talkative, whether they're the quiet types. Basically, you're talking about a full psychometric testing.
Exactly. It's a great way to put it. Exactly. Now, of course, the downside of the technology is that you've got to have stuff on social media, but that's most of us, right? So it doesn't work for everybody. But I think you're going to be really impressed how accurately it has profiled you. And anyway, proof is going to be in the pudding. How about we take a quick break? I'm going to get you around. We'll get the computer out, and let's actually start to look at how this tool can be used, not in the living room, but before we get to the living room. I think you're going to get really excited.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, Seth. So what have you got here? You've got the screen open. This is Is that LinkedIn?
This is just plain old LinkedIn, right?
Right.
And I'm going to start here because Crystal Knows has this cool little plugin. And listen, I'm going to show, not tell. Let me just show you how you do it. So, Tom, do a bit of a setup. I'm an agent. I'm selling to you.
Yeah.
I've got a listing presentation with you tomorrow evening.
Yes.
And I want to get prepped for that meeting.
Yeah.
So this is what it looks like in an AI world. So I want to show you. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look you up. Now I could do this in Insta. I could do this in Facebook. I don't have to be here, but I'm going to pop in. We're already connected. There you are. So this is just your regular old LinkedIn page.
Correct.
Now let me show you the magic. So what you're going to notice, two things on my screen that's different than yours. First thing is, see this little icon up here?
Yes.
That is Crystal Knows.
Yes.
And you'll also notice that there's this little orange bar here.
Yeah.
That's going to change color, but I want to show you what it does. So this is now Crystal Knows it's now doing a profile on you. It is trying to figure out who you are, and it's going to start to show us how I can sell to you. So let's have a quick look. So on the DISC profile, you are an initiator. It's telling me that you are spontaneous,
Yes.
bold,
Yes.
dynamic.
Yes.
Got to say, you are all of those things.
Yeah.
Which I think is good. So, and if you come on down here, let's go through. So it's saying, I need to be casual and fast-paced in my communication with you,
Yes.
and I need to be future-focused.
Yes.
So does that sound like you?
100%.
It does sound like you, doesn't it? It's pretty cool.
100%.
And then I need to focus more on high-level summaries rather than deep diving on
Yes.
a question. That is every conversation you and I ever have.
Yes.
And do you know what the funny thing is look where you and I sit. So you and I are almost the same. Like we're right in the same thing. So, and that makes lots of sense because, you know, when you and I are going backwards and forwards, you know, we tend to flow really well together. That's because on the DISC profiling, we're really similar. But let's keep on going. For you, I don't. So this is what I do with you. What I don't want to do is focus on risk or downside and don't give in-depth product descriptions. So if I'm selling to you, I don't want to bore you with my 143 steps of success.
This is spot on, but I want to ask you, how did it do that? What has it done? Because that seemed to have happened very quickly.
Very quickly. So two things, right? So in preparation for today, I ran this. It would have taken maybe 20 seconds instead of 2 seconds. So
Right.
the first time it does this full profile, it'll go through and it'll look at all your socials. It'll use all of your LinkedIn stuff, any other articles you maybe put on the web. Now for you, there's a lot, right? For the average person or vendor, they're not going to have as much. And it'll go through and it'll do its very best to try and figure out where they sit on the DISC profile, and then how we can then sell to that person. But we are at the tip of the iceberg. Can I show you some more great stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep on going. So in addition to helping me do high level stuff, let's have a quick look. So right now, you've got these different sales areas we can be in. So let's just say we've got the listing presentation. I'm sort of still trying to get it. I think I'd probably be at a discovery or a qualification, maybe at a sales opportunity there. Which do you think's best?
I'd probably say
So I've got the listing preso.
sales opportunities.
Sales opportunity. Okay, so let's have a look at what it tells me I should do for you. Okay, so it's going nuts. Thinking again. Okay, again. Now the cool thing about this, Tom, is notice that it's not just looking at your profile, it's looking at my profile as well. So I'm a driver, you're an initiator.
So it looks at the real estate agent's profile as well as the person they're going to present to.
Right, because not everybody is going to be able to sell using the same techniques. If you're really reserved and numbers focused and you're very analytical, it's going to give you different advice than if you're bombastic and outgoing and confident. So it's actually going to not only tell me how to sell to you, it's going to tell how I best can sell to you as my personality type. And let's have a look, right? So it says, I need to be direct and assertive.
Yep.
And Tom, you're going to be direct back with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that every day when we talk.
Yeah.
With an affinity for imagination, creativity, and inspirational ideas.
Yep.
Seth, sell to Tom by recognizing your shared love for direct and blunt communication. So now this is unbelievable, Tom, because it's telling me what I like and what you like, and I'm creating connections already to say, hey, Tom, we actually share this because I know you just want to get to the point. So I can start weaving these into my scripts in really interesting ways, right?
So, Seth, do you know that most real estate agents try and do all this while they're there?
Well, but what else? What are the choices they had, right? So they're literally trying to figure this stuff out. And to their credit, they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But can you imagine walking in and get this right? Like, so we can go through all the different components. So if I want to, I don't know, negotiate with you, it'll go through and tell me how to discuss money with you. So in your case, I want to speak in goal-centered terms, show pricing through digestible charts and visuals versus number heavy. You're not a spreadsheet kind of guy, at least this is what it's telling me, and explain what the price will bring as far as goal reaching. So I get to say, oh, you're going to invest this, but you'll get this outcome.
So
How's it sounding? Is it good?
it's extraordinary, but I just want to make sure that when you got to do it, it's not going to be too difficult to do because, you know, the real estate industry has got an attention span that's very, very short.
Right, but Tom, that is what this podcast is about. So literally, Ting, I went to Crystal Knows,
Yes.
the website. I downloaded this little Chrome extension. In other words, I click the button. And then I get my first 5 free. And then I essentially go to LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever, and I click give me the profile.
Does it work with various social media platforms, or you've used LinkedIn here, but you can use...
I mainly use LinkedIn just because I find it's the easiest, but you can use it with others, yeah.
Okay, so the way it would work is you would go do it before you go to your listing presentation, read up on it.
Well, it's better than that. It's better. I haven't finished it. Let me just show you quickly because this is going to be a problem when these presentations getting excited. But look at this. So before I even go to the presentation, it's now going to tell me how to write emails to you. So in other words, your emails, I need to keep it short and enticing. It gives me examples. Don't use overly formal language. It'll give me body tips. It'll don't do. And look, it's even going to give me specific templates I can send you that are going to help me. So if I want to do, I don't know, schedule a meeting, this is what it says I should do. This is a straight up cold email.
So it's actually telling you how to communicate to people in different ways to suit their personality.
Using the disc profiling to do it. And I come back to it, using your disc profile to help you do what's authentic to you.
I mean, I can tell you, Seth, if a real estate agent came over to list my house,
right,
having this information prior, they have an unfair advantage. No question about it. And the others that would come along would have a disadvantage. So what you're saying is this is something that you get a certain amount free, then you pay for it.
You get $5, I think it's $50 a month thereafter. But I would just ask anybody is, will this increase your probability? What's the value of a listing? I think this is, to your point, an unfair competitive advantage in every single, and it's not just listing presentations, right? It's listing presentations, it's first meetings, it's whenever you're getting prepared, for God's sakes, it can be dealing with your boss. Because if you're thinking about, I am unhappy with the relationship or I'm unhappy with what I'm getting out of meetings with somebody, this can be a really nice way for you to have literally like a psychologist in your back corner to help you get better outcomes with the people you're dealing with.
Perfect. That was amazing. Man, I got a few questions about this, and I know that agents are going to have the same questions.
Right.
So can we move on to the next bit?
Yeah, sure. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we can get some questions and then talk about what's next.
Perfect. Seth, that was amazing.
How good is Crystal?
Amazing.
Crystal knows.
And I've got to say, whichever agent had that report and came to see me has a very good chance of getting my listing.
Right.
I've got a few questions. One of them is on privacy.
Okay.
Right. And I know that there are going to be some people that are going to say, and even people that are in our industry, they'll say, oh, I'm going to feel like I'm stalking them there.
Yeah,
what's your take on that?
So I love it when people are thinking that way because I think that's the right way to be thinking. I think we always need to be thinking about both protecting consumer privacy and making sure we're just doing the right thing. This particular product, though, it's going to use publicly available information. It doesn't have special access. It doesn't have the ability to scrape anything that isn't available publicly. So I get comfortable with this product, Tom, because I know that, listen, this is stuff that people are already putting out there. They put it on the internet. Anybody can find it. And what Crystal Knows is doing is sucking that information and then analyzing it. But there's no privacy or new information that it's getting that isn't already available. So I think that's a fair use of the content. And certainly Crystal Knows, with its sort of background in the Ivy League, I think is pretty careful around that stuff. So it's a company that I feel good about. And I think their methodology is pretty safe.
In terms of accuracy and consistency, like for me, that was spot on.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking to myself, have you had exposure?
Right.
You've done it with how accurate it is in consistency with other people?
So the short answer is it's good, but it is better with some people. So you're the classic example. You've got a huge online presence. You've got content coming out your ears online. So you're sort of the perfect case because we're going to get a very accurate read on you. We've all got somebody in our family who isn't on social media, who doesn't put anything online. Those people, it's going to be pretty inaccurate. And that's just being truthful. But for the average person, we've tested it pretty extensively. It's good. For people who have got heavy online presence, it is great. And so, we can do the math. People younger are going to have lots of online social stuff. They'll be great. Older people, not so good. But what I found, Tom, is even when it's not perfect, it still adds value because it helps you think about roughly where they're at. It knows exactly where you're at, and it does help bridge how you, whatever your profile is, can best communicate with them. I think people will find it really useful.
Look, I find the awareness of DIS reports helped me understand that even when I was a manager at News Corp, I would manage people the way I wanted to be managed. And through DISC, I began to realize, well, hang on a second, that's you. That's not everyone.
And it's funny you mention that, because I find, you and I have done a lot of training over the years, and I find the thing I like about DISC is I think lots of us understand it. Lots of us in the industry have been trained on it. And I think as a community of agents, we do get it. And I think in that sense, some of the other tools out there, and to be clear, Crystal Nose is not the only product, Tom. There's a couple others, Humantic AI and a couple others that don't come to mind. But the reason I like Crystal Nose is predominantly because it uses DISC. And I think most of us have decent familiarity with that methodology.
Okay. What in terms, do you think they're going to need to get their associate or their PAs to do this? Or how user-friendly is this? Do you think the average agent that is out there listing, going in, doing, their vendor reports, are they going to be able to do it?
It's a really good question.
Do they need a techie on board?
No, is the short answer. But, and this is important, for this particular product, and you and I, over this podcast series, we're going to have lots of different technology that works well on mobile. This is something you do on your desktop. So that's important. And I know lots of people out there are using their mobile almost as their main computer. This is very much on your desktop. Just Google Crystal Nose, and literally it's click a button, add it to your browser extensions, and that's it. It's not a hard process. Everything else is taken care of. When you go to LinkedIn or you go to a social site, it just appears and you just follow the bouncing ball. It's a really easy one, Tom. We picked this one for the first podcast really specifically because it is that easy.
Okay. So every podcast we're going to be doing, Seth, we're going to end up the podcast with an action, call it a power tip.
Yep, power tip on Crystal Nose. That's a goodie.
Yeah, something that people can go off and, sort of execute on. Right.
So my power tip is to be, you've downloaded Crystal Nose. One of the things I like best, Tom, is that thing we showed last. So the DISC stuff is great. I love the email function. The fact that it gives me not only how I should communicate, but actually allows me to cut and paste. So when you get Crystal Nose, think about it not just as a preparation tool, think about it as a communication tool. It's fantastic at that.
Well, how about you're going to do that? Well, listen, if you're going to do that with an email, you might as well do that with a phone call. You'll have a far better quality phone call if you actually read up and say, hey, this is what I should say. And they're not going to want to listen to me for 10 minutes, these people. They want 30 seconds.
Right. Or they want 10 minutes.
Or they want 10 minutes.
Personality, right? And I can see your hour of power at the real estate gym using tools like this so that when you're calling people, you know exactly what to say and when to say it. It's going to be a game changer.
Well, I've got to tell you, every episode we have, we're all about high tech, high touch.
High tech, high touch, and making it easy. We are going to absolutely nail getting these tools into people's hands to help them be making money and serving their clients better.
Okay. Seth, the AI guy, I want to ask you a question. Right at the moment, Australia and New Zealand, there's a gap between the vendor and the buyer. On our next episode.
Yeah? You're talking gap, like price?
There's a gap. There's a price gap.
There is.
Real estate agents, Seth, are saying to me, hey, it's a slog. Most vendors are not accepting reality of the marketplace. Vendor management is very high on the list. And even though we're in a marketplace that is talking about rates going down, wherever you go, whichever market you go, they're telling you, hey, vendor management, set to sell meetings, vendor reports, can AI help us there?
Tom, you got my cogs ticking here. I reckon next episode, you and I are going to use a couple of off-the-shelf AI tools. You're going to have to give me a bit of time. I'm going to think about this, but I reckon we can come up with some great solutions on how we can take ChatGPT, maybe a bit of Gemini, and we can make a game changer for people. I've got just the tool. So, yep, good challenge. Let's do it the next episode.
Okay, Seth. Thank you for joining me.
This has been fun, Tom. Finally, we're here. We are doing it, and we are bringing this out to the Australian and New Zealand real estate community. I could not be more excited. It's great to be here with you, and it's going to be great over the next coming year to get this out to the community.
Episode 1 is done. The sales coach and the AI guy. Episode 1, we talk to you about how you can be using AI tools. So before you go to a listing presentation, you already know the vendors intimately. We'd love to hear your experiences with AI. We'd love to also hear what you think of the podcast. We'd love you to review it on whichever platform you're listening to it. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.